Commander Vexnar of the Dominion fleet stood on the observation deck of the warship Eternal Conquest, watching the blue and green planets slowly rotate beneath them. Earth, the humans called it. Such a simple name for what the Galactic Council had deemed the most dangerous world in 300 star systems. "Status report," Vexnar said, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he processed the data streams flowing across his neural interface. "All systems ready, Commander," replied Subcommander Trillax, her scaled skin shimmering under the artificial light. "The invasion fleet is in position. 200 warships, 50,000 ground troops, and enough firepower to crack a moon." Vexnar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Zorthan Dominion had conquered 17 civilizations across the galaxy. They had crushed species that could bend light with their minds and others that lived for 10,000 years. Humans were just another primitive species, barely a few centuries into space travel. This would be over in days. "Begin the invasion," he commanded. The attack came without warning for the people of Earth. Massive ships descended from the sky over every major city. Plasma cannons tore through military bases. Drop pods rained down like metal hail, each one carrying Zorthan soldiers eager for conquest. In the first hour, the Dominion destroyed 90% of Earth's satellites. In the second hour, they neutralized most of the planet's nuclear weapons. By the end of the first day, the major governments had fallen silent, their communication networks reduced to smoke and ash. Vexnar watched the reports come in with growing pleasure. "Resistance is minimal," Trillax reported. "The humans are fleeing into the wilderness areas. Their cities are ours." "As expected," Vexnar said. "Establish control centers in each major population zone. Begin the processing of survivors for the labor camps." What the commander did not know, what the entire Dominion had failed to consider, was that humans were not like any species they had encountered before. The Galactic Council's warning had been dismissed as exaggeration. The reports from deep space observers had been filed away as curious but unimportant data. Humans, the reports said, were adaptation machines. Dr. Sarah Chen had been a biology professor at Stanford University before the invasion. Now she crouched in a drainage tunnel beneath the ruins of San Francisco, leading a group of 30 survivors through the darkness. "Keep moving," she whispered. "The patrol patterns change every 6 hours. We have a window." Behind her, Marcus Webb, a former Marine, checked his weapon. It was not a gun from Earth. It was a Zorthan plasma rifle, taken from a dead soldier 2 days ago. Marcus had never seen anything like it before the invasion. Now he could field strip it in 30 seconds. "How did you figure out their patrol schedule?" asked Tom, a teenage boy who had lost his entire family in the first attack. "I watched them," Sarah said simply. "For 3 days I did nothing but watch. They're creatures of habit, these aliens. They do everything exactly the same way every time. Once you see the pattern, you can predict them." This was the first thing the Zorthan would learn about humans. They watched, they learned, and they adapted. It was not a conscious choice. It was something written into their very genes, the result of millions of years of evolution on a world that seemed determined to kill them. On the Eternal Conquest, the first troubling reports began to arrive by the end of the first week. "Commander, we have lost contact with Outpost 7 in the northern region," Trillax reported, her voice carrying a note of confusion. "The last transmission indicated an attack, but our sensors show no human military presence in that area." "Send a patrol to investigate," Vexnar ordered, not particularly concerned. "Equipment failures happened. Soldiers made mistakes. These things were normal in any occupation." The patrol found Outpost 7 in ruins, 20 Zorthan soldiers all dead. Their weapons were missing. The food supplies were gone. And on the wall, written in what the translators identified as English, were 3 words: "We adapt, we overcome." Vexnar stared at the images transmitted back to his ship. How? He demanded. Our armor is resistant to their primitive projectile weapons. Our soldiers are twice their size and 3 times as strong. Trillax studied the data. The attack appears to have been coordinated, Commander. Multiple entry points struck simultaneously. And Commander, the humans used our own weapons against us. That is impossible. Our weapons require biometric authorization. They bypassed it somehow. Our technical specialists are analyzing the recovered rifles now. In a basement in what had once been Denver, a young woman named Lisa Park finished rewiring a Zorthan plasma rifle. She had been an electrical engineering student, nothing special, just another person trying to get through college. Now she was teaching herself alien technology. The biometric system connects here, she explained to the group gathered around her, pointing at a small chip inside the weapon. It reads the unique energy signature of Zorthan nervous systems, but if you remove this chip and bridge these 2 circuits, the weapon defaults to an open state. How long did it take you to figure that out? Asked Miguel, an older man who had been a car mechanic before the world ended. 2 days, Lisa said with a tired smile. I broke a lot of rifles learning. Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. In Tokyo, a group of hackers had cracked the encryption on a captured Zorthan communication device. In Moscow, former soldiers were training civilians to fight using guerrilla tactics. In Brazil, engineers were reverse engineering the aliens' hover technology. The Zorthan had expected the humans to surrender after losing their governments and their cities. Every other species had done so. The thought patterns of conquered peoples were predictable: shock, despair, acceptance, submission. But humans did not follow that pattern. They felt the shock, yes. They experienced the despair. But then something different happened, something that had never occurred in 17 previous conquests. They got angry. And when humans got angry, they did not sit and wait for death. They adapted. They learned. They fought back. 2 weeks into the occupation, Commander Vexnar called an emergency meeting of his senior officers. We have lost 600 soldiers, he announced, his voice tight with an emotion he had never felt during a conquest before: uncertainty. 600 against a species we were told had no significant military capability. The humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered, reported General Crickster, commander of the ground forces. They do not form armies. They do not defend positions. They attack and disappear. They take our equipment and use it against us. They seem to learn our tactics almost as soon as we implement them. Then we must adapt our tactics, Vexnar said. We have, Commander, 3 times. Each time the humans adapt faster than we do. Silence fell over the room. The Zorthan were not stupid. They had conquered a quarter of the galaxy through superior technology and military strategy. But they were also a species that had evolved on a stable world with few environmental challenges. Their civilization was old, their methods refined over thousands of years. They had never needed to adapt quickly because their world had never demanded it. Humans were different. Their world was a death trap. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts, plagues, predators, climate shifts. Humans had survived all of it. They had survived because they could change, because they could learn, because when the world tried to kill them, they figured out how to kill it right back. This was their greatest weapon, and the Zorthan were only beginning to understand it. 1 month into the occupation, the Zorthan controlled all of Earth's major cities. Their ships dominated the skies. Their soldiers patrolled every continent. By any standard measure of conquest, they had won. But the reports coming to Commander Vexnar told a different story. Casualty rate has increased by 40% this week, Trillax reported, her voice now permanently carrying that note of worry that had become common among the senior staff. Supply convoys are being attacked with increasing frequency. We have lost 3 more outposts in the past 5 days. Show me the pattern, Vexnar demanded. The holographic display lit up with a map of Earth. Red dots marked Zorthan positions. Blue dots marked confirmed human resistance activity. There was no pattern. The attacks came from everywhere. Mountains, deserts, forests, swamps. The humans fought in places no sane species would choose as a battlefield. They fought in the burning heat of the Sahara and the freezing cold of Siberia. They fought in dense jungles and empty plains. They live everywhere, Vexnar said quietly, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. On our home world, we live only in the temperate zones. The Krilvar live only in their ocean cities. The Mentax live only in their mountain ranges. But humans live everywhere. Yes, Commander, Trilex confirmed. Our analysis indicates that humans have adapted to survive in virtually every environment on their planet. Extreme heat, extreme cold, high altitude, low altitude, wet, dry. They have spread across their entire world. This was the second lesson the Zorthan learned about humans. They were environmental generalists. While most intelligent species evolved to fit a specific environment and stayed there, humans had evolved to fit anywhere. Their bodies could adjust to heat and cold. Their minds could solve the problems of any terrain. Given enough time, they could make any place their home. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a group of resistance fighters had established a base in caves that the Zorthan sensors could not penetrate. Their leader was a woman named Fatima, who had once been a school teacher. Now she commanded 300 fighters. The aliens hate the cold, she told her lieutenants. They slow down when temperatures drop below freezing. Their weapons become less accurate, so we fight at night in winter in the highest peaks we can find. But we are cold too, one of the fighters pointed out. Fatima smiled. Yes, but we have been cold before. Our ancestors survived ice ages. Our bodies know how to handle the cold even if we do not like it. The Zorthan have never experienced real cold in their entire evolutionary history. To them, it is not just uncomfortable, it is alien. Similar strategies were developing all over the world. In the Amazon rainforest, resistance groups used the humid environment to their advantage, knowing that the moisture interfered with Zorthan communication equipment. In the Australian outback, fighters used the extreme heat to exhaust pursuing soldiers. In the swamps of Louisiana, guerrillas discovered that the Zorthan had an intense fear of water, having evolved on a dry world with no large bodies of liquid. The humans were not just fighting back. They were studying their enemy, finding weaknesses, and adapting their strategies to take advantage of every possible edge. Back on the Eternal Conquest, Commander Vexnar received a message from the Dominion High Council. He read it 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. They are reducing our reinforcements, he told Trilax, his voice flat with shock. The Council believes we should have completed this conquest within a week. They are reallocating resources to the Ventari campaign. But Commander, we need more troops. The humans are not surrendering. They are not even slowing down. If anything, the resistance is growing. I know. Vexnar stared out at the planet below. For the first time in his long career, he felt something that might have been doubt. I know. The problem was not just the fighting. The problem was what was happening in the captured cities. The Zorthan had set up labor camps, as they did on every conquered world. The survivors were put to work building infrastructure for the occupation. It was a standard procedure that had worked perfectly on 17 previous worlds. On Earth, it was a disaster. The prisoners are sabotaging everything, reported the camp administrator in what had been Chicago. Subtle things. A wire connected incorrectly. A support beam weakened. A vehicle maintenance job that leaves the engine ready to fail at the worst possible moment. We cannot catch them doing it. They are too clever. Increase security, Vexnar ordered. We have 3 times. The sabotage continues. And Commander, there is something else. What? The prisoners are learning our language, not just a few words. Full fluency. Some of them can speak Zorthan better than our own junior soldiers. They listen to us. They read our documents. They are learning everything about us. This was the third lesson. Humans were learning machines. Their brains were designed to absorb information at an incredible rate. A human child could learn to speak any language on Earth within a few years. Adult humans could pick up new skills in weeks that took other species decades to master. In a hidden facility beneath the ruins of London, a team of scientists led by Dr. James Morrison was studying a captured Zorthan soldier. The alien was dead, killed in a firefight 3 weeks ago, but its body held secrets. "Their biology is fascinating," Morrison said into his recorder. "Four-lobed brain, much more compartmentalized than ours, excellent for parallel processing but limited plasticity. Their neural pathways are rigid, optimized for specific tasks. They think faster than us in some ways, but they cannot rewire themselves the way we can." He paused, examining a tissue sample under a microscope. "Their immune system is interesting. Highly specialized antibodies, very effective against specific threats but slow to respond to new pathogens. On their home world, this would not be a problem. Diseases evolved alongside them slowly. But here, on Earth, with our millions of bacteria and viruses and parasites, many of which are completely alien to them." Morrison made a note. This might be important later. 2 months into the occupation, the first Zorthan soldiers began getting sick. It started slowly, a cough here, a fever there. The Dominion medical officers were not worried at first. Conquest always came with some biological challenges. Standard procedures would handle it. But standard procedures were designed for standard planets. Earth was not a standard planet. Earth was a biological war zone. Billions of years of evolution had created an ecosystem of incredible complexity and violence. Every organism on the planet was locked in an endless battle for survival. Bacteria killed other bacteria. Viruses hijacked cells. Parasites invaded bodies. Fungi decomposed the living and the dead alike. Humans had evolved in this environment. Their immune systems were adaptive, flexible, experienced. A human body contained more bacterial cells than human cells. They lived in a state of constant biological warfare and had learned to turn most of it to their advantage. The Zorthan had evolved on a calm world with a simple ecosystem. Their immune systems were not prepared for Earth. 1,000 soldiers are now in quarantine, the chief medical officer reported to Vexnar. "The illness seems to be a combination of multiple pathogens. Our systems are having difficulty identifying them all. Treatment is only partially effective." "Is it contagious?" "Highly. We have implemented quarantine protocols, but the disease is spreading faster than we can contain it." Vexnar felt cold, which was strange because his species did not normally feel temperature in emotional terms. "What is the fatality rate?" "Currently 12%, but it is rising." The humans had noticed the same thing. In resistance camps around the world, reports were coming in of Zorthan soldiers becoming weak, clumsy, and distracted. The aliens were getting sick, and they were getting sick fast. "We should press the attack," Sarah Chen said at a council of resistance leaders held via a network of captured communication devices. "They are vulnerable now. If we hit them hard while they are dealing with this disease, we can do real damage." "Agreed," said Marcus Webb, now leading resistance operations across the American West. "We have been waiting for an opportunity like this. Their patrols are shorter. Their response times are slower. They are scared." "Scared?" another leader asked. "How do you know?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Because I have been watching them. They look around more. They jump at sounds. They do not venture out alone anymore. These are not the same confident invaders who landed 2 months ago. They have learned that this planet is dangerous." "Then let us teach them some more lessons," Fatima said from her mountain stronghold. "Operation Thunder starts in 72 hours. Operation Thunder was the largest coordinated attack the Resistance had attempted. Resistance cells on 6 continents would strike simultaneously, targeting supply depots, communication centers, and isolated outposts. The goal was not to win the war in a single blow. The goal was to show the Zorthan that nowhere on Earth was safe, and to show them that humans were just getting started. Operation Thunder began at midnight Earth time on a cold December night. Around the world, Resistance fighters moved into position, checking weapons, reviewing plans, and preparing for what they knew might be their last moments. In Norway, a team of former soldiers skied through a blizzard to reach a Zorthan communication relay. The aliens had built it on a mountaintop, thinking the terrain would protect it. They had not counted on humans who had spent their whole lives in such conditions. In Kenya, fighters waited in the tall grass near a supply depot, patient as the predators who had once hunted these same plains. In Japan, hackers prepared to unleash a virus they had spent weeks creating, designed to target the specific architecture of Zorthan computer systems. At the designated hour they struck. The Norwegian team reached the relay station just as the guards changed shifts. In the confusion of the changeover, they placed their charges. The explosion lit up the mountain, and across Scandinavia, Zorthan forces lost contact with their command structure. In Kenya, the attack on the supply depot was swift and brutal. The Resistance had learned that the Zorthan were weaker in the hours before dawn, their alien biology not suited to extended alertness. The depot guards were overwhelmed before they could call for help. In Japan, the virus spread through the occupation network like fire. It did not destroy systems which would have been detected immediately. Instead, it introduced subtle errors, changed coordinates, delayed messages, corrupted data. The Zorthan would spend weeks tracking down the problems, never realizing they were all connected. Commander Vexnar watched the reports come in with growing horror. 47 attacks in the first hour, then 80, then 130. By dawn, his forces had suffered casualties across every continent. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said the Resistance was fragmented, uncoordinated. How did they organize something this large without us knowing?" Trillax had no answer. The truth was that the humans had organized right under their noses, using methods the Zorthan had never imagined. They communicated through coded messages hidden in everyday activities. They passed intelligence through networks of seemingly ordinary people. They had turned the occupation itself into a vast information-gathering operation. This was the fourth lesson about humans. They were social creatures in a way the Zorthan were not. The Zorthan were social, yes, but their social structures were hierarchical and rigid. Authority flowed from the top down. Information moved through official channels. Human social networks were different. They were flexible, horizontal, constantly shifting. Humans could form connections with strangers in minutes. They could build trust through shared experiences. They could create organizations without leaders, movements without manifestos, armies without uniforms. The Resistance was not an army. It was a network of networks, each one connected to others in ways that the Zorthan could not track or understand. "Commander," Trillax said quietly, "I have completed the analysis you requested, the one on human psychology." Vexnar turned to her, and "I believe I understand why this conquest has been so difficult." She brought up a series of images on the display. The Zorthan have conquered 17 species. All of them shared certain characteristics: stable population psychology, predictable responses to stress, centralized decision-making structures. "Standard characteristics for intelligent species," Vexnar said. "Yes, standard, but humans are not standard." Trillax changed the display. "Human psychology is extraordinarily variable. Individual humans can display completely different responses to the same stimulus. Some freeze in danger, others run, others fight. Still others think through the problem and look for creative solutions. We know this, we see them fight and flee. But Commander, the important thing is not what individual humans do. The important thing is what this variability does for them as a species. Trillax leaned forward. When faced with a new problem, a group of humans will try dozens of different approaches. Most will fail, but some will succeed. And when some succeed, the others learn from them and adapt. They experiment, Vexnar said slowly. Yes, they experiment constantly. They try things that should not work, and sometimes they do. They fail more often than any species we have encountered, but they also succeed more often. They are not optimized for any single strategy. They are optimized for finding strategies. Vexnar stood in silence for a long moment. Outside, the planet continued to turn, its surface dotted with the fires of battle. Somewhere down there, humans were learning new ways to fight, new weaknesses to take advantage of, new technologies to steal and improve. "Send a message to the High Council," he said finally. "Tell them we need to discuss the future of this campaign, and tell them to start reviewing everything we know about the Galactic Council's warnings." The Galactic Council was a loose confederation of species that maintained peace and trade across the galaxy. They had observed humans for centuries, since the first radio signals had leaked out from Earth. They had classified humanity as a Type 2 threat, which meant potentially dangerous if provoked. The Zorthan had ignored this classification. They had conquered Type 2 threats before. They had conquered Type 3 threats. They saw no reason why Earth should be different. Now, reviewing the Council's files, Vexnar began to understand his mistake. "The humans have survived 5 mass extinction events," he read aloud. "Their genetic diversity indicates recovery from at least 2 population bottlenecks. They have spread across their planet faster than any non-spacefaring species in Council records. They have developed technology to modify their own genes, enhance their own intelligence, and extend their own lifespans." He scrolled through more data. They have a documented history of internal conflict lasting over 10,000 years. They have fought each other with every weapon they have ever invented, and yet they still exist. They still grow. They still advance. The file concluded with a simple statement. Recommendation: do not engage. Allow natural development and establish diplomatic contact when they achieve interstellar capability. Vexnar closed the file. He had made a terrible error, not just a tactical error or a strategic error, a fundamental error of understanding. He had assumed that humans were like other species, just weaker and less advanced. He had assumed that conquest would break them, that superior technology would ensure victory, that numbers and firepower would determine the outcome. But humans were not like other species. Humans were adaptation machines, designed by their brutal planet to survive anything. Conquest did not break them. It just gave them a new problem to solve. 3 months into the occupation, things began to fall apart for the Zorthan. The disease that had started as a minor problem was now a major crisis. 20% of the occupation force was sick. Medical supplies were running low. The Dominion's standard treatments were not effective against Earth's aggressive and varied pathogens. The resistance was growing bolder. Attacks happened daily now, sometimes hourly. The humans had learned to use the terrain, the weather, and even the wildlife against the invaders. In Australia, soldiers reported being attacked by swarms of insects that the humans had somehow weaponized. In South America, patrols disappeared into the jungle and were never seen again. And perhaps worst of all, the humans were becoming technological equals. Lisa Park, the engineering student who had first cracked the biometric locks on Zorthan weapons, was now leading a team of scientists and engineers in a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. They had progressed from modifying alien weapons to building their own. The plasma containment system uses a magnetic field generated by these coils, she explained to a group of new recruits. We figured out how to replicate the field using Earth materials. The power source is the tricky part, but we have found that modified lithium batteries work well enough for short-range weapons. She held up a weapon that looked crude compared to the sleek Zorthan designs, but it worked, it fired, it could kill. "This is version 7, Lisa said. "Version 1 blew up in my face. Version 2 worked but was too heavy. Version 3 overheated. We kept trying until we got it right." That was the human way. Try, fail, learn, try again. It was inefficient by Zorthan standards, but it was relentless. The humans never stopped trying. Commander Vexnar received the reports on human technological progress with growing alarm. They were reverse engineering everything. Weapons, vehicles, communication systems, medical equipment. They were not just copying the technology. They were improving it, adapting it to their needs and resources. "How long until they can build spacecraft?" he asked his technical specialists. The specialists exchanged worried looks. "At their current rate of progress, Commander, perhaps 2 years, perhaps less." 2 years. In 2 years, the humans would not just be fighting to survive. They would be fighting to take the war to the stars. That night, Vexnar made a decision that would have been unthinkable when the invasion began. He opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council. "I need to speak with your human experts," he said to the council representative. "I need to understand what we are dealing with." The council representative, a being of pure energy who had no physical form, pulsed with something that might have been amusement. "We tried to warn you, Commander. The humans are not like other species. You cannot conquer them." "Why not?" "Because every time you try to kill them, the survivors become stronger. Every weapon you use against them, they learn to use against you. Every obstacle you put in their path becomes a lesson that makes them more capable. You are not conquering them, Commander. You are training them." 4 months after the invasion began, Commander Vexnar stood before the Dominion High Council via holographic link. Around him, the bridge of the Eternal Conquest was quiet, the usual buzz of activity reduced to nervous whispers. "Your report is disturbing, Commander," said High Counselor Zirental, the oldest and most powerful member of the Dominion leadership. "You ask for reinforcements to complete the conquest, yet you also suggest that reinforcements may not be enough. Explain." Vexnar had prepared for this moment. He had spent days reviewing data, interviewing specialists, and trying to find words that would make the council understand what they were facing. "High Counselor, I have served the Dominion for 150 years. I have led conquest operations on 9 worlds. I have never encountered a species like the humans." "They are primitive," another counselor said dismissively. "Their technology was centuries behind ours when we arrived." "Was," Vexnar emphasized. "That is the key word, when we arrived. In 4 months they have closed a significant portion of that gap. They learn at a rate I have never seen. They adapt to every tactic we employ. They take our technology and improve it." He brought up a series of images. "This is a human-built plasma rifle. They constructed it from captured components and local materials. It is less powerful than our weapons but lighter, more reliable, and it does not require biometric authorization. They built it in less than 3 months." More images appeared. "This is a human modification of our communication equipment. They have found ways to encrypt their signals that our systems cannot break. Our specialists believe they are using mathematical principles we have not yet discovered." "That is impossible," a counselor objected. "We have had interstellar civilization for 10,000 years. They have barely reached their own moon." "And yet they are doing it," Vexnar replied. "Because they think differently than we do. They approach problems from angles we would never consider. They experiment constantly, even when logic says the experiment will fail. Sometimes, especially when logic says it will fail." High Counselor Zirental studied the images in silence. Finally, he spoke. "What do you recommend, Commander?" This was the moment Vexnar had been dreading. I recommend we consider withdrawal." The chamber erupted in angry voices. The Dominion had never withdrawn from a conquest. Never. The very idea was an insult to their history, their honor, their identity as the supreme power of the galaxy. "Silence," Zirental commanded, and the chamber went quiet. "Continue, Commander. If we commit more forces, we may be able to crush the current resistance. But we will not crush the humans. We will only make them stronger. Every battle teaches them. Every defeat motivates them. Every victory costs us resources we may need elsewhere." He pulled up a projection. "I have run simulations based on current trends. If we double our forces, we can establish control of major population centers within 6 months. But the resistance will continue. In rural areas, in wilderness zones, underground. They will keep fighting, keep learning, keep improving. And within 5 years, based on their current rate of technological advancement, they will be capable of attacking our home world." The chamber went completely silent. "You are suggesting," Zirental said slowly, "that these humans could threaten the Dominion itself." "I am suggesting that if we continue this war, we are creating an enemy unlike any we have faced, an enemy that grows stronger when attacked, an enemy that learns from every engagement, an enemy that never, ever stops adapting." On Earth, the Resistance had no idea that the Dominion was debating withdrawal. They only knew that the aliens were getting weaker, their attacks less coordinated, their hold on the occupied territories less secure. In the Rocky Mountain facility, Lisa Park and her team had made a breakthrough. "It is a shield generator," she explained to the gathered resistance leaders via secure communication. "We captured it from a Zorthan command center last month. It creates an energy barrier that can stop plasma bolts." "Can we replicate it?" asked Marcus Webb. "Better than that, we can improve it." Lisa grinned, the exhaustion of weeks of work temporarily forgotten. "The Zorthan design is elegant but inefficient. They use too much power maintaining a uniform field. We have modified it to concentrate the field where it is needed, when it is needed. Our version uses 1/3 the power and can be mounted on vehicles." Dr. Sarah Chin nodded with satisfaction. "What about the biological weapon project?" Dr. Morrison, leading the biological research team, joined the call. "We have identified 17 pathogens that are particularly effective against Zorthan biology. We can cultivate them, deliver them through various means. The aliens have no immunity to Earth diseases." "That sounds like biological warfare," Fatima said quietly. "I have concerns about that path." "So do I," Sarah agreed. "We should use it only as a last resort, but we need to have it ready. If they escalate, we must be prepared to respond." This was another human trait the Zorthan had underestimated, their moral complexity. Humans were capable of terrible acts, but they also debated those acts, questioned them, sought to limit them. They were not simply aggressive. They were thoughtfully aggressive, which made them far more dangerous. A species that would do anything without question was predictable. A species that chose when and how to fight, that weighed costs and benefits, that could escalate or de-escalate based on circumstances. That species was almost impossible to model. On the Eternal Conquest, Vexnar received the Council's decision. "We will not withdraw," Zirental said, "but we will send no more reinforcements. You will hold what you have and prevent the humans from developing space capability. This is your new mission, Commander. Containment, not conquest." Vexnar accepted the order, knowing it was a compromise born of pride rather than strategy. The Council could not bring themselves to admit defeat, but they also could not ignore his warnings. Containment was their middle ground. He also knew it would not work. The humans were already building spacecraft. His intelligence reports confirmed it. Deep in the wilderness areas, in hidden facilities around the world, they were taking everything they had learned and reaching for the stars. You could contain a species that accepted containment. You could not contain humans. They would find a way out. They always found a way. 5 months into the occupation, the first human spacecraft launched from a hidden base in the Andes Mountains. It was small, barely large enough for a crew of 3, built from salvaged alien technology and human determination. The pilot was a woman named Elena Vasquez, a former test pilot for a space agency that no longer existed. Her crew consisted of an engineer named Yuki Tanaka and a communications specialist named David Okonkwo. "Control, this is Phoenix 1, Elena said as the craft climbed through the atmosphere. "We have achieved orbit." Below them, the Resistance celebrated. Above them, the Zorthan fleet scrambled to intercept. "Multiple contacts incoming," Yuki reported. "Fighter craft, they will reach us in 4 minutes." Elena smiled. "Then let us show them what we have learned." The Phoenix 1 was not designed for combat, but it was designed by humans, which meant it was designed to survive. The hull was reinforced with materials the Zorthan did not recognize, compounds developed in human labs using human chemistry. The engines were overclocked, running at efficiency levels the original alien designs had never achieved. And the pilot was Elena Vasquez, who had spent her career pushing aircraft to their limits and beyond. The first Zorthan fighter fired. Elena rolled the Phoenix 1, a maneuver that should have been impossible in a craft not designed for it. The plasma bolt missed by meters. "Deploying countermeasures," David announced. A cloud of metallic chaff erupted from the Phoenix 1, confusing Zorthan targeting systems that had been designed to track alien ships, not human improvisation. More fighters approached. Elena pushed the engines harder, feeling the ship shake around her. They had tested these speeds in simulation, but never in reality. The math said they could do it. The math was about to be proven right or wrong. "Come on," she whispered, "come on." The Phoenix 1 shot forward, leaving the Zorthan fighters behind. In minutes, it had broken through the occupation perimeter and was heading for open space. "Phoenix 1 to all resistance forces," Elena broadcast on an open channel, knowing the aliens would hear. "We are free, the stars are open, and we are coming." On the Eternal Conquest, Commander Vexnar listened to the broadcast in silence. Beside him, Trillax was running calculations. "If they can build one ship, they can build more," she said. "Our containment strategy has failed." "I know," Vexnar said. "Prepare a message for the High Council. Tell them it is time to consider new options." "What options, Commander?" Vexnar looked at the planet below, thinking of all the humans down there, all of them adapting, learning, building. Thinking of the ship that had just escaped, carrying 3 humans into a galaxy that had never seen anything like them. "Peace," he said quietly. "Tell them it is time to consider peace." 6 months after the invasion began, the Dominion High Council received 2 messages that would change the course of galactic history. The first was from Commander Vexnar, requesting permission to open peace negotiations with the humans. His report was detailed and devastating. Casualty figures, resource expenditures, projections showing that continued occupation would bankrupt the Dominion's entire sector fleet within 2 years. The second message was from the humans themselves. Elena Vasquez and her crew had spent 3 weeks in space, dodging Zorthan patrols and making their way to a Galactic Council observation station on the edge of the solar system. There, they had requested and received permission to broadcast a message to the Dominion. "People of the Zorthan Dominion," Elena began, her face appearing on screens across the alien empire. "My name is Elena Vasquez. I am a human, a member of the species you tried to conquer. I am speaking to you from aboard a spacecraft we built ourselves, using your technology and ours." She paused, letting the image of the human-built ship speak for itself. "You came to our world expecting an easy conquest. You expected us to break, to surrender, to become your slaves. Instead, you found something you did not expect. You found a species that will not stop fighting, will not stop learning, will not stop adapting until we have won or died trying." Her voice softened slightly. "But we did not send this message to threaten you. We sent it to offer you a choice. You can continue this war and we will meet you at every step. We will learn your technology and make it ours. We will find your weaknesses and use them against you. We will build more ships, train more soldiers, develop more weapons, and eventually we will bring the war to your worlds. Or," she continued, "you can choose peace. You can withdraw from our planet and meet us as equals. We bear you no hatred. We only want to be free. Help us achieve that freedom and we can be your allies instead of your enemies. The choice is yours, but make it soon. We are learning fast." The broadcast ended. Across the Dominion, millions of Zorthan watched and wondered what kind of species they had awakened. The High Council debated for 3 days. Some wanted to destroy Earth completely, to use their most powerful weapons to wipe out the human threat before it could grow stronger. Others argued that this would only create martyrs, that the Galactic Council would never allow genocide, that the political cost would be too high. In the end, it was High Counselor Zirental who made the deciding argument. "We built our empire on the principle that strength conquers weakness," he said. "The humans have proven that they are not weak. They are strong in ways we did not imagine, strong in ways we cannot match. To continue fighting them is to fight against our own principles." He looked around the chamber. "If we believe that the strong should lead, then we must acknowledge that the humans have earned the right to lead themselves. We will make peace." The vote was close, but peace won. On Earth, the news of the Dominion's decision to negotiate was met with a complicated mix of emotions. Joy, certainly, relief, but also grief for all who had died, and uncertainty about what the future would hold. Dr. Sarah Chen was chosen as one of the human representatives for the peace talks. She traveled to a neutral station at the edge of the solar system, where she met Commander Vexnar for the first time. The Zorthan commander was taller than she expected, his 4 eyes studying her with an intensity that might have been threatening months ago, but now seemed simply curious. "Dr. Chen," he said, his translator rendering his words in English, "I have read your file. You led resistance forces in what was once California. You killed many of my soldiers." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "You invaded my world. You killed millions of my people." "Yes." Vexnar was silent for a moment. "I have commanded many conquests, Dr. Chen. I have never felt regret for any of them until now. Your people taught me something I did not know I needed to learn." "What is that?" "Humility." The word sounded strange in the Zorthan language. "We believed we were the masters of the galaxy. We believed that our way was the only way. We were wrong." The negotiations took weeks. There were difficult moments, times when old anger threatened to derail the process. But slowly, carefully, the two sides built an agreement. The Zorthan would withdraw completely from Earth. They would pay reparations for the damage they had caused. They would share technology and knowledge to help humans rebuild. In return, the humans agreed not to pursue revenge, not to attack Dominion worlds, and to join the Galactic Council as a peaceful member species. They also agreed to something else, something that surprised the Zorthan negotiators. They offered to help. "Your empire is struggling," Sarah explained. "We have seen the reports, diseases spreading through your colonies, economic problems, social unrest. You conquered too many worlds too fast and now you cannot manage them all." Vexnar stiffened. "That is an internal matter. It will become everyone's matter if your empire collapses. Refugees, power vacuums, opportunistic predators moving into the chaos. We have seen it before in our own history." Sarah leaned forward. "We know how to rebuild after catastrophe. We have done it many times. Let us help you." "Why would you help us? We invaded your world." "Because it is better to have stable neighbors than desperate enemies. Because your success will be our security. And because Sarah allowed herself a small smile, it is what we do. We solve problems, we adapt, we help things grow. The peace treaty was signed on a spring morning, Earth time. Across the planet, humans watched the ceremony broadcast from the orbital station. They watched Sarah Chen shake hands with Commander Vexnar. They watched the Zorthan flag come down over the last occupied city. And then they began the work of rebuilding. 10 years later, the galaxy looked very different. Human ships traveled between the stars, trading, exploring, learning. Human scientists worked alongside Zorthan researchers, combining the precision of alien technology with the creativity of human innovation. Human diplomats helped mediate disputes between species that had been fighting for centuries. Earth itself had transformed. The scars of the invasion were still visible in places, but new cities rose beside the ruins of the old. Human and alien architecture stood side by side, a testament to the new partnerships being formed. And in the archives of the Galactic Council, a new entry had been added to the classification of the human species. Humans, it read. Origin, Sol system, third planet. Classification, Type 1 adaptive species. Status, protected by Galactic Council Resolution 7742. Note, under no circumstances should military action be taken against this species. Their adaptive capabilities make them immune to conventional conquest strategies. Recommend diplomatic engagement only. Dr. Sarah Chen read this entry on the first anniversary of the peace treaty in her new office at the Human Galactic Relations Ministry. She smiled at the clinical language, knowing what it really meant. It meant that the galaxy had finally understood what humans were, not the strongest species, not the smartest or the most technologically advanced, but something more important. Survivors. Humans were survivors. They adapted to any challenge, learned from any defeat, grew stronger from any struggle. They had survived ice ages and plagues, wars and famines, and now they had survived first contact with a hostile alien empire. More than survived, thrived. Sarah looked out her window at the night sky, filled now with the lights of human spacecraft coming and going. Out there, Elena Vasquez was commanding humanity's first deep space exploration mission. Lisa Park was leading a research station developing new technologies. Marcus Webb was training the next generation of human soldiers who would keep the peace rather than fight the war. And somewhere in the Dominion, Commander Vexnar had retired from military service to become an ambassador, spending his remaining years building bridges between species who had once been enemies. The invasion had failed, not because of human weapons or human numbers or human luck. It had failed because humans refused to be conquered. They adapted, they overcame, and in the end, they did something no other conquered species had ever done. They won. And then, being human, they looked around at their former enemies and asked the most human question of all. Now, how can we help? The galaxy was still learning what it meant to share space with humanity. Some species were frightened by the implications. Others were excited. A few were already lining up to form alliances with the strange little primates from the third planet of an unremarkable star. But all of them understood one simple truth that the Zorthan had learned the hard way. When it came to humans, nothing was impossible. They would find a way. They always found a way. That was what it meant to be an adaptation machine. That was what it meant to be human. And the universe would never be the same.